The Cincinnati Reds need Nick Lodolo to figure things out because there is no backup plan.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Reds podcast. My name is Jeff Carr, and I'm a lifelong Cincinnati Reds fan. I've been podcasting about this team now for 7 seasons, and I'm glad that you're alongside me here today. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team, your Cincinnati Reds, every single day. And on today's podcast, we're going to appreciate Tyler Stephenson because I kind of feel like what he has been doing here recently has gone well under the radar. I mean, obviously the Grand Slam was awesome, but everything else has been really good too. We'll talk about that later on in today's show. I also believe that the outfield picture might become a little bit clearer thanks to a couple of guys that I think we'd all but given up on. We'll talk about that coming up in a few minutes. I want to start today's episode, though, by looking at the reason why Nick Lodolo needs to go. Because, and I mean go as in like he needs to get going. He needs to really start pitching well, because there's no backup plan. That's all coming up on today's Locked On Reds podcast that is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances today with Monarch Money. Go to monarchmoney.com and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for 50% off your first year. All right, Nick Lodolo is on the bump today against Bailey Ober and the Minnesota Twins. Reds looking to see if they can get yet another series victory. And Nick Lodolo is on a recent stretch of, I wouldn't say it was bad, it's just kind of mediocre performances. His most recent start wasn't all that great. 2 or 3 starts ago was bad. And it's kind of put a damper on his season. Not to the point that like you're thinking, oh, this guy is just not good at pitching, but we considered Nick Lodolo Ace 1B. Not just another guy, not just like a 4th or 5th starter for this team. It was Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. Hunter Green's on the IL, and Nick Lodolo has been just okay. But quite frankly, there's nobody else. Like if Nick Lodolo can't go, and you know, you always talk about the phantom injuries, right? Like guys hurt, or guys pitching badly. Let's talk about some sort of shoulder soreness, and let's get him on the IL, get him off the mound. You can't really do that with Nick Lodolo, because if you do that, then you're putting him on the shelf for 2 weeks. He's going to miss at least 2 starts, and that's 2 starts that you have to give to somebody else. You're not giving them to Chase Burns right now. Chase Burns isn't ready. I believe Nick Krall when he said, and I think a lot of people tend to believe that the quote that Nick Krall gave about Chase Burns is copy-pasted from other prospects. But consider this. Nick Krall mentioned Chase Burns needs to build his routine. He needs to get used to the MLB starting pitcher routine. I don't take that lightly, because consider what happened whenever Hunter Green was first called up. Kind of felt like he was very inconsistent, right? He would have 1 good start, 1 bad start. A lot of that is just understanding how to handle the other 4 days, right? You pitch every 5th day, you got that part down. What do you do in between? I think a lot of that is stuff that he can learn in Louisville, on top of the fact that he's going to face guys that are quadruple A players / close to being in the major leagues, so you get that better competition. We saw it in his first outing. He walked the first 2 guys he faced. Those guys came around to score, and he shut down the rest of the way. That was great to see. And I know he just pitched here on Wednesday as well. Hopefully we continue to see some great stuff from him, but I don't expect him to be up anytime soon. Like, if at all, it's going to be later on in the season, maybe a September call-up for a cup of coffee, something like that. Because what is best for his development, I think, is what should be paramount to the Reds. So if it's not Chase Burns, then it's Chase Petty. And we know what we know about Chase Petty right now, and what we know is he still has work to do. And I think that he ultimately will prove to be a much better pitcher than he has shown in his first 2 major league outings. But are we really running to the phone right now to call Louisville and get Chase Petty up here and have Nick Lodolo take a break? I'm not. But I'll say this, Nick Lodolo has been just okay. And there's a couple of different reasons as to why I think he hasn't been the most Lodolo-ness of his Lodolo. because he hasn't got the strikeouts and he hasn't got the luck. Let's start with the luck. He can't really control that. But according to his fielding independent pitching, he should be pitching better than he is. His FIP is lower than his ERA, which means the performances that he's put together is indicative of a better pitcher than what we have seen on paper. ERA doesn't tell you everything, and I constantly want to bring up the fact that there are multiple ways to describe a pitcher's performance and to quantify a pitcher's value to a team. ERA is a small part of that picture, and you must understand its deficiencies because ERA relies a lot on the guys behind the pitcher. FIP talks about what the pitcher can control, not whether or not the fielders behind him caught the ball. So FIP is saying that he is better than he has shown so far, but one of the reasons he's not been even better has been the fact that he's not getting strikeouts. His strikeout percentage right now is below league average. League average is 22%. He's at 21%. Now, it's not egregious, right? Like, nothing about Nick Lodolo this year has been egregious or bad. It's just been not as good. And to see the not as good version of Nick Lodolo has made me wonder a little bit about his future. Because this kind of felt like the year, like Hunter Green took a big leap last year. And Nick Lodolo, through injuries, is a little bit behind in the development where Hunter Green is. So you kind of figured that this year would be the year that Nick Lodolo takes that big step forward. So if the question is this the year that he takes the big step forward? As of right now, that answer is no, because he's sort of stayed still. I think that's what I'm most looking for from him. Can he do that against this Twins lineup that, albeit they've got a couple of dudes that can mash, but the good news is their biggest power threat in Trevor Larnach doesn't hit lefties very well. Nick Lodolo should be able to take advantage of that. So how does Nick Lodolo pitch to Byron Buxton? And how does Nick Lodolo pitch to Harrison Bader? Look, I'm sure Harrison Bader's a really nice guy. I am. But I don't like him. I don't. His entire career, he has killed the Reds. He's hit over 290 against the Reds in over 175 at-bats. He's hitting 290 against the Reds. He's got 10 homers against the Reds in his career. Do you remember when he was a Red a couple of years ago? You probably don't, because you shouldn't. He got 3 hits. He hit $160. He had 1 double. That was come on. He was bad as a Red. So he's bad as a Red, good against the Reds. I don't much like that. I don't like that. So can Nick Lodolo shut Harrison Bader down? Because ultimately there's nobody else behind him. He's got immunity. If you're watching on YouTube, I put that on there. It's not necessarily that he's earned some sort of immunity idol from Survivor, but he certainly has a hidden immunity idol in his back pocket, and that if somebody wants to come up and be like, we need somebody better than you, he's going to be like, who you got? But quite frankly, I think that he's going to start to turn things around. He's shown signs that he can. It's just, what is the curveball doing? That's really what it boils down to. His curveball just hasn't been as effective this year. And according to Savant, he still has a 35% whiff rate on his curveball. That's all well and good. But if he doesn't miss bats, he's hitting barrels. We talk about that a lot, right? Like, if you don't miss bats, at least miss barrels. He either miss bats, he either misses bats, or he hits barrels, because his curveball right now, opponents are slugging over 400 against a 429. That is not what we expect from his best pitch. Because right now his best pitch is his changeup. And that's all well and good if that's his third pitch. Nick Lodolo needs the breaker. He needs the curveball. He needs that pitch to start working for him like it should. And hopefully he can turn that around starting tonight against the Minnesota Twins, because the Reds got a win in Game 1. They got a chance to win the series. Big reason why they got to win was a couple of outfielders that I think a lot of people have started to just write off or ignore. But I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't do that, and why the outfield picture might be getting a little bit clearer because of them. Do you ever look at your bank account and go, man, where'd all that money go? You need Monarch Money, because Monarch Money helped me out, because I was just in that position where it's like, oh my gosh, like, I spent all my money. It's all gone. With Monarch Money, I am now financially thriving and not just financially surviving. You can see all of your accounts, your deposit accounts, your credit accounts, and your investment accounts in one place on one screen. You have one login, boom, they're all right there on Monarch Money. And we've got this great introductory offer as well. You can get 50% off your first year. Just go to monarchmoney.com and put in the code LOCKEDONMLB. Monarch Money can help you track your spending. It can set limits so that you know exactly when you're getting close to that spending limit. It can help you cut back on your spending really well. That's monarchmoney.com, and use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB to save half off your first year. I can't recommend it enough. You should try it. monarchmoney.com. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Save half off your first year. Thanks for always making Locked On Reds part of your everyday routine. If you're not an everydayer of the Locked On Reds podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app and make us part of your everyday routine. Really appreciate that. Also, I mean, if you subscribe, you get the Reds postcast as well with Tim Daniel. He goes live at the end of every Reds game right here on the Locked On Reds YouTube page and on the Locked On Reds audio feed shortly after the live show is over. All right, so I think that we're overlooking Will Benson and Jake Fraley. And I think that there's something about it. I think the reasoning behind it is because of their past and not because of their present. So we've got to consider their present. Think about Jake Fraley and Will Benson for just a minute. These guys were key in this win over the Twins on Tuesday night. Now, somebody, I'm sure, is going to say, well, if it weren't for Jake Fraley, then the Twins wouldn't have taken the lead in the sixth inning. Wrong. If it weren't for Christian Encarnacion Strand making a just bonehead error throw to first base, then the Twins would not have taken the lead in the sixth inning. But I digress. Jake Fraley has actually been hitting pretty well here recently, and so has Will Benson. Both guys, honestly, have been much better than you expect and much better than you think. Now, they're both only right-handed pitching. You know, you're only facing them against right-handed pitching. So that's not something that I'm saying, all right, make these guys everyday outfielders. No, not making that argument. But what I am saying is this might actually refocus the Reds' trade deadline. I mean, Will Benson came up with a huge hit yesterday, but quite frankly, he's been hitting the ball crazy hard and just not getting very lucky all season long. For the year, Will Benson is first on the team in average exit velocity. The balls that he is putting in play on average are going 93.4 miles per hour. A hard hit ball is defined as a ball put in play of 95 miles an hour or more. He's almost averaging a hard hit ball. Will Benson has a hard hit percentage to that effect of 59%. He is better in both of those categories than Elly De La Cruz. Now, I'm not saying that makes him a better player than Elly De La Cruz. I'm just saying the underlying numbers show that Will Benson should be even better than he currently is. You know, right now he's slugging .484. According to his quality of contact statistics, they're saying that he should be slugging over .600. That's the kind of guy that if you go out and you get a consistent right-handed outfielder, you can pair with him. And maybe that's Austin Hayes. Maybe Austin Hayes comes off the injured list at some point and stays off the injured list. That's ultimately the goal with him, right? Like you want to just see him healthy and see what he can do for a longer stretch of period of time than just a couple of weeks, because that's all we've seen of Austin Hayes so far. But if you put that guy with Will Benson in left field, you make your left field Benson and Hayes, maybe make Hayes your DH against right-handed pitching or something like that. Or Gavin Lux needs to be the DH against right-handed pitching. But still, the whole idea is Will Benson is actually making the decision a little bit harder in the outfield. But so is Jake Fraley. Now, Jake Fraley is not the quality of contact king that Will Benson is, but he has still been very valuable in this lineup. Consider the fact that if you rank the Reds by WOBA, right? We love talking about the WOBA. I mean, obviously, Austin Hayes and Elly De La Cruz put the WO in WOBA. But Jake Fraley's not that far behind. WOBA is a statistic, by the way, that is, it puts weights on hits and walks and all this other stuff, and it correctly identifies the value of a given hit, whether, walks have a value, singles have a value, doubles have a value, triples have a value, because there are certain statistics like batting average that just gloss over that. There's slugging percentage that says that a double is twice as valuable as a single, although that's not totally correct either. WOBA tries to correctly assign value to given hits. And according to WOBA, Jake Fraley is 10th. He's top 10 on the team. I don't think people would say that. I don't think that if you were to ask somebody if Jake Fraley is a top 10 hitter on this Reds roster right now, that they would say that. And that also includes the statistics put forth by one Austin Wynns, who is an Oakland, nope, not Oakland. Drop $1 in the jar. He's an A, because we're not allowed to say Sacramento. But he's on this list. Also right next to him is Rhys Hines, randomly, who's in AAA. But I'm saying this to say, he has been better than you think he is. His overall value, he is above the league average hitter. So I think that there is something to be said here. The Reds don't necessarily, as much as I would like to see them go out and make a big swing and and get a big time player, maybe outfielder in here, they also don't necessarily need to. As much as I keep looking at this trade deadline and who I think the Reds should go after, and it's something that in episodes, in upcoming episodes, we'll start to flesh this out a little bit. I'll tell you, take a look at this guy. Track this guy's performances. This is somebody who the Reds should keep their eye on. We'll get to that here soon. But I also think that it could just be a right-handed pairing for Jake Fraley. In a perfect world, the Reds could platoon their corner outfield. They could platoon Will Benson and Austin Hayes in left, and they could platoon Jake Fraley and Mr. Outside Higher right-handed right fielder for the right field spot. Could that be Rhys Hines? I don't necessarily know that that's the best answer for a playoff push. It's certainly not Connor Joe or Garrett Hampson. We're definitely not saying that. But maybe go get somebody that is legitimate out there. That would be fantastic to see. Is it Taylor Ward? Maybe not specifically. Again, we're going to dive a little bit more into options that the Reds could look at for this, but I'm starting to wonder if they don't necessarily have to go make a big splash. It's just somebody they could pair with these guys. I think it's more likely, if you were to ask me to predict which would happen, are they going to go get a big dude, or are they going to go get somebody that slots in maybe as a platoon partner? It's more likely they get a platoon partner. But I don't necessarily think that that's a failure either. I think that Jake Fraley and Will Benson are making so that it wouldn't be a failure, because they are looking a lot better than they were last year. Now, make no mistake about it, a lot better, air quotes, than they were last year for both Benson and Fraley they don't have negative WAR. I mean, Jake Fraley is at 0.4 and Will Benson is at 0.3. So they're not exactly setting the world on fire when it comes to wins above replacement, but they are providing the value at the plate that we're hoping that they can, and then their defense is hopefully going to follow suit here soon. Neither one of them are plus defenders, but if they can just be average defenders, then that's fine, because TJ Friedel's in center field, and he's a pretty solid dude. But ultimately, I think that those two guys are being overlooked, and the value that they are bringing to the Cincinnati Reds this season is much more than what you were expecting of them. They are not guys that you should be thinking, boy, let's cut these guys. And if the Reds could improve upon them, then that would be great. But chances are that improvement isn't available on the trade market, and if it is, it's highly sought after by multiple teams, and they're going to drive the price up, and I don't know that I trust Nick Krall in a bidding war. Just saying. That's reality. That's not what I want to happen. What I want to happen is for the Reds to just get exactly what they need. How Nick Krall goes about that, though, is where all of the consternation comes in. But Will Benson and Jake Fraley are making it easier. Somebody else that's making it easier is a guy who is finally taking the reins of the cleanup spot. And because I think Tyler Stephenson is just not getting no respect. Coffee, coffee, coffee. Now that I have your attention, you should drink Trade Coffee because, quite frankly, sometimes getting up in the morning, coffee is the first thing on my mind, and Trade Coffee has made that experience even better. There's a little bit of ritualistic feel to that first cup of coffee in the morning, and Trade Coffee really gets that. Trade Coffee sources different brews from all over the country. They got over 50 of the top roasters, and they're going to find the brew just for you because they got a quiz on their website. You go to drinktrade.com and you can take their quiz, take their flavor quiz, find out the coffee that best fits you. Go to drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb right now. You'll save 50% off of a 1-month trial. Try them out. I think you're going to be just where I am, where I'm like, I don't need to go back to the grocery store to get some coffee. I got Trade Coffee. That's drinktrade.com/lockedonmlb to save half off a 1-month trial. Drink Trade Coffee today. I promise you, you'll leave all the other coffees behind. If you can't watch us on YouTube, you can always listen to us on your favorite podcasting app. We're seriously on all of them out there. Go check us out today. And yeah, I've been solo on this show. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties trying to connect. For those of you that don't know, Steve lives in Hawaii, so we need the internet to podcast, and the internet is not cooperating today. So sorry about that. That's why you just got Jeff talking Reds with you solo here today. And we'll finish up today's show by looking at Tyler Stephenson because I don't think he's getting enough respect right now. The Reds have been on quite a stretch here recently. There's a big reason why they're over 500, and Tyler Stephenson is a huge part of it. Because for the last 20 games now, Tyler Stephenson has been one of the best hitters in this lineup. Like, Elly De La Cruz has been the best. Tyler Stephenson's been right behind him. Tyler Stephenson, for the last 20 games, has 24 hits and 18 RBIs. He's got 5 homers during this time frame. We're talking about a .308 batting average and a .564 slugging percentage. That is cleanup hitter material right there. But more than that, he's also getting on base 36 or almost 37% of the time. So he is putting together an entire picture of production that is amazing. I mean, if he were to expand this out, and I know that it's a little bit of a hot streak, so it's kind of hard to expect this for an entire season, but if you took what he has done in these past 20 games and expanded it out to a whole season, that'd be a 41 homer season. Remember what Steve said about 40 homers? That'd be kind of funny if that happened. I mean, as much as we gave him crap for saying Tyler Stephenson is a 40 homer hitter, but these last 20 games he's been hitting like a 40 homer hitter, just to give you a little bit of context. But I think that when it comes to Tyler Stephenson, I wonder a little bit if the contract is not what has determined how people view him. Jose Trevino is signed for multiple years now. And immediately when that happened, it raised a lot of eyebrows. Not only because, hey, look at that, the Reds gave a multi-year contract to somebody. Oh my gosh. But also, they gave it to a catcher that's not Tyler Stephenson. Tyler Stephenson is a very sought-after type of player when it comes to Major League Baseball. Think about the catcher position and what the Reds have had in years past. There's been Tucker. There's been Ryan Hannigan. There's been Javier Valentin. There's been a lot of different names, right, behind the plate of solid defensive catchers who every so often ran into one. And Tucker was a little bit better of a hitter than that, but he wasn't much better of a hitter than that. Tyler Stephenson is miles ahead of any of them at the plate when it comes to hitting. And I think that that is something that we don't necessarily appreciate because we get to see it every day. When you see some different catchers like what the Twins have. I mean, Ryan Jeffers is a decent hitter, but Christian Vasquez, who they brought in for Ryan Jeffers after Jeffers got hit on the hand with a pitch, Christian Vasquez is not a good hitter. Never has been. He's always been a good defensive catcher, but not a good hitter. So you have this guy in your lineup that it's just sort of understood. He's probably going to be a big out most of the time, or an easy out most of the time. Tyler Stephenson is not that way. And I think that his value to this team is so important that I'm surprised that the Reds haven't signed him yet, but I think because the Reds haven't signed him yet, people try to view him differently. What's wrong with him? Why isn't he signing yet? Why haven't the Reds committed to him long term? But I think that that's only because he understands his value and he sees how the Reds value things as a whole. I mean, the Reds have signed Hunter Green long-term because they got him while he was dealing with injuries and dealing with some seasons that, we were wondering if he would take that next step. I think most of us expected it to happen, but he hadn't done it yet. And so the Reds were able to get that long-term contract with him on what most people would consider to be a value. You're not getting Tyler Stephenson for a value. The Reds have waited too long to do that. He came back from the collarbone injury. He is playing well. He played well last year. He's playing well this year. And while he's not the best defensive catcher, you take what he does behind the plate because of what he does at the plate. And I think that it's important to recognize where he is at right now, because he started the year slow after having missed a good chunk of the year already because of injury. So he really started behind everybody else. So if you go look at his season stats right now, his season stats aren't that impressive. But these past 20 games are telling you everything is ticking up. You better buy Tyler Stephenson stock now if you for some reason didn't have any, because he's about to take off. I love what I've seen from Tyler Stephenson, and he has been the clutch force in the middle of this Reds lineup that has really spread to everybody else. We always talk about how there's a lot of different things in baseball that seem to be infectious, right? Like bad luck really seems to permeate the lineup, and we've seen that a lot this year. Just as clutch has permeated the lineup here super recently, obviously not for a very long time just yet, but there's now been a couple of games that you're starting to wonder, like, look, once is a fluke, twice is a pattern, and three is a trend. We're bordering on trend here, not fluky. I don't think this lineup is fluky clutch. I think there's more to it than that. And I think Tyler Stephenson is a big reason why. And I think that we all need to recognize that. And I'm really hoping that if it's not by the end of this season, that it is before Christmas, that we hear that the Reds have signed him to a couple-year extension. I'm not saying they got to sign him for 10 years, but maybe give me like a 4-year deal, right? Give me a 4-year contract for Tyler Stephenson. I think that would be a perfect time frame, because he's not, 25 years old, but he is in the prime of his career right now. And to have a guy like that as your catcher, where you could slot him into the cleanup spot if you don't go out and get a cleanup hitter this offseason, that is so key. And I think that we'll continue to see that. I love what Tyler Stephenson's put together, and I don't know that it's been talked about enough. Like, we're all focused on Ellie, and for good reason. He's this team superstar. We're all focused on Matt McClain. Can he figure things out? Can he keep turning things around? We're all focused on the pitching staff because it's been the driver of this team. Tyler Stephenson is just kind of like, yeah, I'm just taking care of business, man. I'm just doing my thing. And I think that needs to be celebrated more than it currently is. But that'll do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for checking out today's Locked On Reds podcast. We will be back in your feed tomorrow covering what is hopefully a Reds series win, and we'll be in your feed Thursday morning, as there's an early Thursday game on Juneteenth. So make sure that you check us out tomorrow morning. But you can always trust that we will be Locked On Reds every single day.